We'll call to order the Board of Zoning and Appeals. Would you please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. And those of you who may have noticed, Doug's here today. Danielle's husband is in surgery for cancer. So if you would remember her in your thoughts at this time. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Here.
Amber Brown.
Here.
Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Joe Machado. William Harper.
Here.
Renee Curtis.
Here.
Zane Cantrell. We have a quorum.
Have the minutes of the last meeting before you. Are there any changes or deletions to those minutes?
Mr. Chair. Approved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to be approved. Have a second.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Yes, sir.
There was, just so you're all aware, there was a correction that was made to the vote count in the original that went out, but it's been corrected in the copy before you, just so you know. Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Zane Cantrell.
Yes, they are approved. We have a number of items before us. When we start this, we will ask those who have requests before the board to come to the podium and share any additional information about your request. There may be some questions from our group here. So, and then following that, we will have a public hearing for those of you who would like to speak on this request before we make a decision. The first item we have is a request by K&B Investment Partners, who is requesting a rear yard setback requirement. Doug, what do you have on that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. This first item, as was stated, is located along West Jefferson Pike. The request is for variance relief of 12 feet, which would allow for an 8-foot rear setback to the normal 20-foot rear setback involving this particular property. This is the property in question right here that you see on the screen. You see two structures on the property. You have the main dwelling right here, and there's a secondary dwelling right here. Is my mouse coming up? Yes, okay. So you can see both of these structures here. The reason that this request has come before you today, and we'll get to that here as soon as we go through some of these photos, this just kind of gives you a picture of the area directly across the street, looking down Jefferson Pike. The reason for the request is this plat that was submitted to the Planning Commission for review and was approved back in May of this year. Now, as you can see, it's one piece of property right now, and the applicant's proposing to split this into 3 separate lots. You've got the existing house on Lot 2. You've got that smaller existing one-story structure right here on Lot 1, and then you have which would be an open structure, or open lot, excuse me, on Lot 3. You see there's an existing septic system disposal area right here. There actually was a waiver granted as part of the plat approval for this residence, so this is actually their septic system in this area. The reason they're asking for the variance request is, as of right now, this is an accessory unit to this particular structure. If this line is put in by recording the plat, this no longer is accessory to this structure. This becomes a standalone principal dwelling. Principal dwellings are required to have a greater rear setback than accessories are. You know, accessories can be as close as 5 feet. The principal dwellings have to be at least 20. So that's really what brings this request to you today. The structure, the smaller structure here, was built about 1980. It's about not quite 500 square feet in size. You can see in our staff report, we kind of go through the different conditions for variance requests. One of those being a self-created type situation. Of course, by creating this, they are by trying to record a plat, they would be creating this hardship. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions. We have received several phone calls on this particular application, and I also believe the county commissioner of this district is here to speak. So with that, again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Doug, and you may have said this, and I apologize if I didn't hear it. Is there only one septic?
This system is, this system here is actually for this. I'm not totally sure what this is tied into that. I pulled the septic records on this property, and all I could find was the one for this. If the applicant's present, he could probably speak more.
Isn't that going to cause a problem with?
Well, if there's enough septic area there. Now, as you can see, they also identified some additional septic soil on the property. So that's a concern as well. Even if they were to try to relocate this, they'd be relocating into an area that they'd be sitting on septic soil, so that could be a problem as well. So, I mean, I won't say that there's just no hardships here at all, but as of right now, it's in compliance because this is all one piece of property. And by creating this lot, it's becoming a principal dwelling as opposed to an accessory.
So, looking at this, there's no way that this cannot be a self-created hardship.
Well, by creating the plat, if they try to create the lot, it would be, they are creating it. I mean, that's reality.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have anyone in here representing this request? If you'll come forward at this time. Come to the podium. If you have any additional information you want to share or try to answer a couple of these questions.
Yeah, there is an existing septic tank on the property, obviously, and there is enough soil around there if there was need be to add for another septic tank on there, but one is existing. All we're trying to do is to create for the residents that's living there affordable housing. So, I mean, we're selling this property to them, so. That's kind of where we stand with it, is where we did that.
Okay, you have a question?
So
It is a site-built house as well.
okay, so you're going to sell this property to someone, and there's only going to be one, and the septic system is going to be on their property.
It's not going to be on their property.
This is the existing septic tank. Now, is it draining to this septic area?
It does not, from what I know, it does not, from the original.
This is, because as far as I know, this is for this lot here. This existing
Correct,
system is for lot 2, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so once you deed it, there's going to be two septic systems. One for the other one on to the right, and then one for the...
Correct. There's just a septic easement for the middle property.
Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Are all three being sold? I know you said you were going to be selling these for affordable housing, but are you going to sell each plat? I'm just trying to understand like the future development of it.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So I'll ask you as the applicant, you're creating this hardship. It's not something that you've brought to us and say, this is a hardship on us. This is something you're creating yourself, correct?
I don't know if we're actually creating it. I think the setback is in the way. The septic system is actually there. Things weren't recorded in a proper way. So at the end of the day, I don't know if that's us creating a hardship for it. I mean, it's an existing site-built home at the end of the day.
It's listed as an accessory structure now, though, correct?
Yes, it would be considered accessory right now because it's accessory to the principal unit
The
on the
only
property.
reason that it's going to become a primary is because he's wanting to divide that property.
That's what would happen if this is divided, like that line. It's not so much this lot that's the problem, lot 3. It's this lot 1 right here. Yeah, I mean, if they just did this, there's no issue. But it's this line right here, which is causing the need for the variance.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this. If you'll come around to the podium.
My name is Robert Young. I live at 3555 West Jefferson Pike, directly across from this property that's in question here tonight. And my concerns is exactly what they're wanting to do with this piece of property, and I think I found out just now, is that they're trying to create this being a primary piece of property. And I'll tell you a little bit about the property, because my nephew owned it for about 30 years. Thomas Short owned it in the beginning. My nephew bought it in the 90s and sold it to William Barrett in 2015. And I was up here with public hearing from him because of the request he was trying to get. Now this K&B, and I don't know who, the gentleman didn't give his name and address there a while ago, so you might want to get that. But anyway, the little building it's within 8 feet of the property line back there right now. And I think DeMasi said a while ago that it was created in 1980. I've lived there since 1966, and the little house was there then. So it's been there for a while. It started out being a chicken coop, and Mr. Short converted it into a little shotgun type house. It's had a little bit of work done on it since that point in time to what it looks like today. My nephew done remodeling on it too when he had it. Now the septic system that's on track 2, the field lines are in track 1 right there, and that was signed off on by Mr. Johnny Walker when he was with the planning department. Mikey Graves put that system in for my nephew, and Johnny Walker came out there and told Mikey, he says, we cannot approve this because that's a cinder block septic tank. It's not a regular pipe septic tank. He says, we cannot approve that. Mikey told Mr. Walker, he says, this young gentleman here has got 3 kids and he can't afford to buy a new tank. So he got Mr. Walker to approve it. That's how that got approved. Now, the little house back there where it shows the septic tank, I don't know what kind of tank is in there, but it's nothing but a tank with no lines on it whatsoever. So when it's created into a primary piece of property and they made to use this soil site they've got there, then they can't build on that. So I think what they're trying to do here is get it to the point to where they can sell this piece of property, because they just bought this piece of property in January as an investment, and they're trying to get it where they can make money off of it. I don't have any problem with lot 3 there if they do something like that, but I do have a problem with that, and it sits direct in front of my house, because I'm across the road direct in front of it. And as far as I'm concerned, what they told about how long the building's been there is all a falsehood. So, you got any questions from me?
Any questions? Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Next. Anyone else? Commissioner.
Chairman, thank you, and board members. This is not in my district, nor are the houses across from my driveway, because they divided right down the middle of the road, and my friends and neighbors across the road are not in my district. Mr. Young and my family go back, I don't know how long, probably longer than I've been alive. He is in my district. So this is not my district, it's Commissioner Piercy's district, but it affects people in my district, right across the street. Some of you, I think you and you especially, this has been here before. And last time it came up, and I don't mean anything personal against anybody, but the facts are the facts. Last time this came up, there were, I'm going to try to talk very softly about this, there were inaccuracies, inconsistencies that were called out and were obvious in the ad application that we declined. So what's changed in the last, 4 years? This came up 5 years ago? What's changed? We couldn't believe it back then, and it was called out and proven that things weren't as accurate as we were led to believe. So what's changed today? In my mind, nothing. Now, I know y'all got a lot, so I'm going to try to go very quickly. When I look at the requirements, and when I was on the BZA, I did some research on variances, because with CTAS and some other training that we have to do every year, I was questioning variances. Variances are totally different than anything else that this board decides. And it's pretty strict. If it doesn't meet one, it doesn't meet any. And a few things that have come out in this meeting, I think Mr. Sartain's brought it up. Would this result in a particular hardship upon the owner? And it talks about the topography, the shape of the land, the irregularities of the land. You've got to consider all that to approve a variance. The hardship on this land, and it states here, the current renters would like the option to buy it. That's the hardship? Financial gain. That's what it's all about, and I understand that. I think any property owner would want the best return on their investment, but a variance is very strict. And it talks about number 4, financial returns only shall not be considered. Well, it says here the applicant has indicated that it is the desire of the tenants to purchase the property. It says that, but the rule says financial returns only shall not be considered for the basis of granting a variance. The alleged difficulty, number 5, or hardship has not been created, and that's already been brought up, by any person having an interest in the property. And it says, the hardship identified by the applicant is the result of the applicant's actions, period. When I go to the very end of the documents that were sent to me, application 2021-017, requesting variance relief to reduce the 20-yard setback to 8 foot for a property located in RM medium density residential zoning district, fails to meet all the criteria for variance relief. And based on what I understand and what I've studied, if it doesn't meet all of it, it should not be granted. And Mr. Young can talk about traffic in that area, the deaths, the wrecks. The last one would have killed him if he had stuck to his schedule and didn't have a bottle calf that he had to feed. He would have gotten killed. This is a bad place for more traffic. If we separate things and we've got 3 or 4 different people living there, every residence, if my understanding is correct, every residence has 2.5 vehicles. I don't know how they come up with half a vehicle. Must be a little electric car or something. 6 trips per day on average on a residence. So you're looking at 7.5 cars. If we divide this into 3, you're looking at many more trips, and people have already been killed. There have been horrendous wrecks right there at that stretch of Jefferson Pike. The bottom line is it doesn't meet the criteria for a variance. It should not be approved, and I think the staff's comments were spot on. The application itself tells us all we need to know, and so if you're wondering, Mr. Chairman and Board, I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Close the public hearing. Do we have any comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Piercy, the commissioner out there, sorry, we'll give you a chance to say your piece.
Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I won't keep you as long as Mr. Rather, but the way I understand it, the way Doug has explained it to me, if you deny the setback, they can still record 2 lots.
They could still create what is Lot 3, if they could still do that, that's correct.
That's on a very high-speed part of Jefferson Pike being a state highway. It doesn't need any extra stress that can be avoided. I'm all about the gentleman making a profit on the property if he can. Ideal situation would be one nice home there, but it's not my choice. With 2 lots, he could come up with 2 eventually. I'm afraid with 3, there'll be 3 more driveways on the road, and that'll really stress it. Some properties can be developed, and some really don't need to be mashed that hard. In my opinion, this is kind of mashing a small tract very hard, not being in a large subdivision and putting this smaller acreage to a tract. I would ask that you do not approve this setback variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piercy. We'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we deny the request based on its self-inflicted hardship.
Second.
Have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Excuse me. Gary Farley,
Yes.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item we have is a request by Jake Lloyd, who is requesting a sale of fireworks. What do you have on that, please?
Yes, sir, thank you. This property is located at 2348 New Salem Highway, or Highway 99. This is the property in question. It is zoned commercial services. Got rezoned that a couple years back now. You can see on the map before you, you've got some reddish property here and here. This is the city limits of Murfreesboro property that's been annexed within the city limits, so that's what that is indicating. It's currently developed with a single-family home. We did review an administrative site plan, adding some parking areas and everything to turn this into like more of an office-type situation, although nothing has moved forward with it at this point. Properties across New Salem Highway in the city are actually zoned commercial highway and commercial fringe. Those are roughly equivalent to our commercial general and commercial services, respectively. As you stated, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is seeking a temporary special exception that would allow the temporary sale of fireworks in this zone commercial services. The applicant's proposing to erect a 40 by 60 tent. Just to give you an idea, and we'll get to that concept plan here in just a moment, but this is kind of looking at the surrounding area. That's looking down toward Cason Lane, looking across the street. And you can see that these last couple of pics, of course, Highway 99 is being widened in this area actively. This is an active construction area. You can see they have binder down, but they do not have any top coats down yet. That's still, oops, sorry, wrong way. That's still coming. This is the concept plan that the applicant has submitted. He would like to, again, have the 40 by 60 tent along with associated parking areas on the property. Of course, our regulations allow them to have it for about a 2-week period, June 20th through July 5th, and that would be from 8:30 in the morning to about 10 o'clock at night. The applicant spoke to him prior to the meeting. He did say that the person that he has possibly running this tent would only actually be out here for about 8 days. Apparently, they have another site within the city limits of Murfreesboro that they're also going to be taking care of, so they're going to kind of split between the two, so he doesn't think he'll be out there for the entire 2-week period. Just some of the conversations that we had with the applicant about this application, of course, have to deal with the fact that it is located within an active construction scene. This picture that you look at right here, this is an older picture. You can see that there was construction going on, but the construction was going on down on the, I guess that'd be the south side of the road. This is really more the north side of the road. It's kind of flip-flop now. Traffic is actually down here, and this area is being paved. There's a we just received notice just the other day that the intersection at Cason Lane, which is just down the street from this particular particular property, is going to be closed for about a month as they do finish the construction work and they finish the paving in this area. So when this was applied for, we told the applicant at that time that, this is an active construction area, and we do have concerns about this, that the safety involved and everything, being that this is an active construction area, especially if they're out there actively paving, there are going to be times when they will not be able to access the property at one point or another, probably for a considerable amount of time during the day as paving is continuing. Another concern we had deals with, this is the portion of the site plan that was submitted to our office. This is actually kind of the existing conditions. You can see the septic area for the property is right here in the front, right where he has his parking now. And applicant's been made aware of that, and he understands that if he doesn't need to be parking over this area here, because if he does, that has the potential to ruin the septic system for this particular house, which again will be an office probably at some point in a not too terribly long future. So those were staff's concerns about this. Generally, it can meet the criteria as far as the standards in the zoning ordinance outside of the general applicability standards about safety and those issues, but staff does have some concerns regarding the safety of this area. So with that, I know the applicant is present, and we'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please, to the podium. Give us your name and any additional information you want to share about this.
Okay. My name is Jake Lloyd. You want me to give my address? 849 Lakemont Drive, Nashville, Tennessee. I work in Laverne. We have 2 other fireworks tent locations in Rutherford County, as well as several in Murfreesboro. Just to clarify, the application said the 20th through the 5th we're going to be selling, but the guy that we lost the location in Murfreesboro and the guy that we have running this, he already had vacation plans. Like in Murfreesboro, well, let me back up. In Murfreesboro, you're only allowed to operate from the 28th through the 5th. And that's essentially when he would be operating this, because he already has vacation planned, and so that's that. So we're not even going to put the tent up until the 23rd, I believe. So it does cut this time period down considerably, actually in half. But I have several things. I was asking them if they had a way to project this, but I'll just give it to y'all. The green lines are the septic system. I got this from Danielle. And so I mapped it out to scale. I apologize, I don't have to scale on here. I measured everything out. The green is where the septic system is. And I'm a metal detector enthusiast as well, so I have actually a pretty good metal detector, so I'm not going to just go off of where I think it is. I'm actually going to go out there, measure it off, and then make sure of where these lines are, block them off where nobody could park in the area. So I don't think that that's an issue. As well, I'll mark, which I don't know if y'all thought about this or not, but where those lines are coming under the tent, I will mark those off as well very accurately and make sure that obviously no stakes or anything going there. We deal with that sort of thing frequently, I'll say that, where we have lines come around and stakes have to be placed in such a way that they don't hit anything from gas lines to water mains to you name it. So that's one issue. As far as the construction is concerned, I actually went over there and I talked to a Rachel Crouch. She is the Operations District Specialist for TDOT. She is in charge of that area. She's in charge of that project, the whole paving and widening of that road. And as a matter of fact, she told me that she is on site, she said, just about all the time, she said, if we're doing construction out here, she said, for the most part, I'm here. She said, obviously there might be a meeting or something where I have to leave for a short time, but she's like, pretty much I'm here. She said, I told her about Doug's concerns and asked her, and I'll be honest, I was a little hesitant because I was like, I didn't know what she was going to say, but she assured me that it would not be a problem with their paving going on and everything. She said, as a matter of fact, she said the paving is not a problem in the least. And she assured me that, as a matter of fact, she told me that about 5 times. She said, paving's not a problem. She said, it's not a problem that you're going to have a tent there. She said, the only issue is she said, we are going to be putting an asphalt sidewalk in. She said, that would pose a problem when we're doing that, because at that point in time where we put that sidewalk in, you will not be able, nobody can go over it for, she said, 2 to 4 days, depending on weather and how long it takes it to dry and harden and that sort of thing. She said, but, she's a super nice lady. She said, if you'll let me know if you get approved and contact me, she said, I'll work with you, and we'll either do that before or after you're at the site. And she said, it won't be a problem. She said, if you get approved, she said, we'll work with you. She said, it's just, I just need to know. She said, as long as I know, she said, I don't see any problems whatsoever. There's also other roads that come through that construction zone where people have to pull out into traffic. It is a heavily trafficked area. That's exactly why we want to be there. If it was no traffic there, then we probably I wouldn't even be here talking to you about putting a tent there. So with that, if y'all have any other questions, I'll answer them.
We have some questions here.
I figured you might.
Go ahead.
Mr. Lloyd?
Yes, sir.
The concerns that I've got is like Doug has mentioned to you that he has, and I appreciate you going and talking to the TDOT people to find out about the construction. But the paving is not really what I'm concerned about during this time. The concern I've got is the egress of going into it and out of it with the increase of patrons that you'll have going into the tent. It's the location at the time of all this going on. It's a perfect storm, in my opinion.
Right.
Where with Case and Lane going to be closing down, increasing the flow of traffic going different ways.
I would think that if Case and Lane was shut down, it would decrease the amount of traffic.
It's fixed. They're fixed the detour stuff, plumb around. It's going to be a perfect storm. If I'm all for you and your person that you're working with to put up a seasonal tent and sell fireworks and things like that, but at this time, during this time, I think it's the wrong location.
Okay, I mean, there's only so many options. I mean, we don't really have any other options.
Right.
But I mean, I can tell you that in the past, we operate 80 locations all over Tennessee and Kentucky. We've been in business for 49 years,
Right.
have operated in dozens of construction zones and sites. Every time it's a little bit different, but we've operated in a number, quite a few that were just like this, and we've yet to have a problem, see a wreck because of it, or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the traffic on 99, the increase in the maneuvering that they're going to have to do to get in and out, with the increase of everything, I just think it's.
What do you mean the increase in maneuvering? I'm just trying to understand what you.
Okay, Doug, if you'll put up the video, not the video, but the slide where it shows the construction of where they're moving and traveling on what they're doing.
Oh,
now.
on the other, can you, what was it, Mr. Farrell? I'm sorry. Which
Picture?
one? Which one do you want? What is it you want
picture?
up on the screen?
I'm sorry.
What do you want on the screen? What is it you want on the screen?
The slide which shows the location.
Oh, the pictures that were taken.
Yeah, the
Okay,
pictures. I'm sorry.
Get that back up there.
Yeah. This is,
Like right there.
okay.
That's on the far side of the barrels is where the traffic is going
Correct.
back and forth. They're going to have to come across into that location with the stopping of traffic, with the increase of traffic there to coming in, your patrons coming in. with the increase of traffic with the closure, it's going to cause a bottleneck right there and going to cause a traffic
They
problem.
have several roads that are already coming through that area, as well as a daycare. That, and I realize that those were already there prior to before, but I mean, I pulled in and out of there without a problem. I mean, the TDOT lady said she would work with us.
Wait till June the 21st through the July the 23rd, and I'm telling you what's fixed to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I respect your business. I respect what you're doing. I don't have a problem with you selling and doing, but I just think at this time, as far as safety with the traffic, I have a concern, and it's the location during this time that I've got. If it was in,
What if we could get a police officer?
I'm sorry?
What if we could get a police officer on the busy days to direct? I mean, I don't know that I don't foresee it being a problem, but what I perceive is kind of irrelevant is what, you guys and women, ladies see. We have had instances in the past where when we've set up on a vacant lot on an extremely busy intersection of road where a municipality required that we get a police officer to basically stop and direct traffic and just let cars out, let cars in, so on and so forth. And of course they're expensive, but I wouldn't have a problem doing that. I mean, I wouldn't want to hire one the entire 8 days that we're out there, but I mean, to be honest with you, most of the time that we're out there, we're not going to be that busy. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. We don't get a lot of business until the 3rd and the 4th. And so
Have you had a fireworks stand before?
We
had one before this.
We have 80.
Yeah.
So but this right here is additional to
This
what
is the
you
first
have.
for this locate. This is the
This
first.
is the first for this.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's correct. I'm sorry, I didn't. This is the first at this particular location. Yes, sir.
Could you employ, say, at the heavy traffic times, someone to help with?
Sure, I'll do whatever. I mean, as long as it's something that we can, financially justify. I mean, I'll do whatever. My point is in the past, and we've had issues like this come up before, and it's, I certainly respect what y'all say. I mean, y'all are just looking out for public safety and people's safety in general. In the past, I mean, if you're familiar with the fireworks business at all, we just don't get a lot of traffic coming in and out of our tent. Most people don't even really think about fireworks until, oh, gee, it's July the 3rd, we need, let's go buy fireworks. I mean, the bulk of our traffic, the large, I mean, I'll put it this way, about probably 80% of our sales come on the 3rd and 4th. So in the past, what municipalities have done when they've had concerns like this is say, okay, and most of the time they even stretch it down to on July the 3rd from 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock. We're going to require that you have a police officer out there to stop the flow of traffic, let people out, that sort of thing. And then they say on the 4th, you're required from 9 a.m. to 8 or 9 in the, well, it's not 8 in the morning, about 9 or 10 in the morning. I think it's usually, I'm not making this up, I'm just trying to remember. It's usually, I think, from 10 o'clock in the morning through 8 o'clock at night. They'll require that we have somebody out there, and we've done that in the past, and it works. I mean, it works great. We don't like having to hire a police officer, but we certainly don't mind employing one and doing that.
Okay, Jerry?
So I was looking at the dates of when the 2nd is on Friday. People get paid. They're trying to go buy their fireworks and stuff. So you wouldn't mind having a police officer there. Some of the concern, like Gary's has, is people pull out and then they go running down the not ready portion to try to merge in traffic and stuff like that.
Well, I can tell you from being out there, they've got too many cones out there to go running and merging. That's there's absolutely no question about that. But at the flip side, I certainly see your concern. I can see them pulling out and running down this way, running down that way. I mean, to combat that, I mean, we'd be happy to put something up that would make them go out to where the officer is. Like, I have no problems with that whatsoever. I mean, I have no problems doing whatever y'all recommend as long as it's something that's, you know, like I said, feasible and reasonable that we can do. I mean, you know, we obviously don't have the power to control that road and say, hey, only fireworks customers can drive on it or anything crazy, but we'll do whatever.
Okay, I think we've got a good idea of what your proposal is. Thank you. You may be seated.
Yes, sir.
We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. If you'll come around. Give us your name and any of your information.
My name is Scott Sharver. I live at 2358 New Salem Highway, which is right beside this property. I have a lot of concerns with this. Traffic right now is very bad. I had a lot of trouble getting out just to come to this meeting. And with them closing Cason Lane down there, plus this being close, this is right beside my driveway where this tent will be. People parking on the grass. This is a home. This is the man just moved out of here last month, out of this home. His septic tank's in the front yard. I've seen septic tank tops break when cars have parked right on top of them. But the biggest thing is just the amount of vehicles that are going up and down this road right now, and people having to pull across like y'all were talking about, pull into here, and 5 years ago we moved there because my house caught on fire possibly because of fireworks. I've seen these fireworks stands catch on fire, and this is in a residential area. There's a daycare beside my house and one across the street. With the construction going on, I don't know if the fire hydrants are hooked up or whatever. I just think that this is a bad idea for this area right now. He talked about wanting to be out there because of traffic. Yes, there's a lot of traffic, but when they close Cason Lane down there, and plus this is the county. This is zoned county, so if something was to happen, like a fire or an explosion or whatever, the fire department is on Cason Lane, so how would they even get to it? So I just have a lot of concerns, especially it being right beside my house.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? What? No. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. Any comments?
I just want to make a comment that I live in this area. I know that I kind of support the city and the county from where I live, but the traffic is just horrendous. I mean, I agree with Gary on business is business, and we want to support businesses when it makes sense. But if it's going to cause a safety concern, and multiple have been addressed today, that's out of his control. I just think the timing is the issue on this one, and I just want to make that comment.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to deny the request.
We have a second? Got a second. Any further comments?
If I could clarify, Ms. Brown, is that due to the safety? I mean, can you say what the concerns? Okay, thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Yes. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item we have is a request by Richard Reeves. This is the Borough Pit, which has been before us several times before. And if you remember, the real problem out there is getting the dirt into the landfill without getting on the highway, and so that's been part of the reasoning behind the approval here. So what do you have on that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. As you stated, this is for property located on East Jefferson Pike. Again, you are familiar with this. Most of you have seen this several times. This site is bordered by East Jefferson Pike, single-family homes in the Riverwalk subdivision, agricultural properties, and also the Middle Point landfill. What they're asking for is a special exception approval for the temporary special exception permit allowing borough pet activities, which have been approved by the board since 2012 through the last application back in July, I believe. I think that's last year, 2020. There's about 72 acres of the 224-acre site being excavated total to provide clay for the landfill operations. This application seeks to incorporate all those existing conditions from the last application and also to renew the particular application. This is the site in question. This is just some pictures of the area in general, as you can see. That's on Jefferson Pike. This is an overview of the area. I know you probably can't read that from here, but this kind of shows you how they're breaking out the areas. As you know, they do it in 5-acre increments. When they finish with an area, they start the reclamation process and then move on to another area. Our staff report is fairly long on this. Most of this, again, is information that you've seen before. The applicant is present and their attorney is with them. He has a small presentation that he would like to make. If you'd like to go through that, he'll go through in more details. The effective date of this would be July 17, 2021. That's kind of when we'd start the clock ticking, so to speak. That's in our regulations, and then they would go from there. But with that, I'll be happy to answer any specific questions you might have. But as Mr. Cantrell stated, this has been before you multiple times, and they're wanting to operate under those same parameters. So.
Attorney Ted Goodwin, if you'll come forward. When Ted finishes up, if you have questions at that time, I'm sure he'll be able to answer them.
Good afternoon. I'm Ted Goodman of Murphy & Goodman Attorneys. I represent the applicants in this matter, Richard Reeves and his wife, Joan Reeves. Mr. Chairman, I know y'all are all very familiar with this, and you've got a full docket tonight. Do you want me to go through the presentation?
Go through whatever you need to.
All right. If you could go to the next slide, please. We are requesting renewal of the special exception for borrow pits, which allows the Reeveses to sell clay to the adjoining Republic site. We're requesting renewal on exactly the same terms as you all previously approved in August of 2020. And this is a necessary part of the landfill operations. Next slide, please. This is the 215.66 acre Richard and Joan Reeves property on East Jefferson Pike, as well as the 9.11 acre Rio Barrow property, which is just sort of a little tooth into the Reeves property. Next slide. This is a survey of the property that we've all become pretty familiar with. Right up here at the top is East Jefferson Pike. This is the Republic property. This is Riverwalk subdivision, and the areas in hash marks are the areas that have already been approved that we're asking to have renewal for excavation. Next slide. It's important to understand this does not extend or expand the life or scope of the landfill. Republic would inevitably get the clay from some other source, if not from the Reeves property, which would require extensive dump truck trips across the public roads. This just allows Republic to obtain the clay and move it directly from the Reeves property to the Republic property without ever going on the public roads. Next slide. This takes about 50 dump truck trips a day off the public roads, which preserves the road surfaces, reduces congestion, and reduces the possibility of traffic accidents. Next slide. The Reeveses have made a number of commitments to this board and to the county and to their neighbors, all of which are memorialized in writings with the Planning Commission, and they reaffirm and renew and will continue to honor those. Next slide. Among those, excavation occurs from only one 5-acre section or less at a time. Prior to excavating, topsoil is removed from the site, the section, is stored on site, and then after excavation is complete, they return the topsoil to the excavated area and reseed it to restore the property. The goal of the project is 6 months after the project is complete. We want the area to appear undisturbed. Next slide. This is an area that is reclaimed. This photograph was taken in July of 2018 of an area that was excavated in 2014 to 2015. Next slide. No blasting occurs during the project. All service trucks and dump trucks are prohibited from entering or exiting through any residential property, any residential neighborhood, and excavation, of course, occurs only during daylight hours. Next slide. All borrow pits are set back at least 150 feet from all Riverwalk property lines, and the applicants, of course, will continue to utilize extensive efforts to prevent dust, erosion, and air pollution. Next slide. And obviously, the BZA retains extensive oversight of this project. We are required to come back every the end of each permitting period. A permitting period is 6 months with the potential of a 3-month administrative extension. And so we're required to come back to seek renewal each time, which allows you all to continue to police the applicant's fulfillment of their commitments and obligations to the board, to the county, and to their neighbors. Thank you. And this is an area that was reclaimed. Again, that's 2018 from an area that was excavated in 2015 to 2016.
Just a point of information, how deep is the topsoil?
How deep is the topsoil, Mr. Reeves? Is it?
There's probably 6 to 12 inches.
The answer was 6 to 12 inches. It varies.
You guys have been doing this since we approved it, I think, in 2012?
That's right, 2012, yes, sir.
Do you have an estimate of when all this is going to be finished?
It's really hard to say that because the needs of the landfill fluctuate, and I'm not sure that I don't believe we're their only supplier either. So their needs and demands fluctuate. Sometimes it comes in ebbs and flows. So it's difficult to have an estimate on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Commissioner Piercy.
I'm not here to deny their request. I am here to acknowledge that the last time I was here for this, I I asked y'all to ask them to build us a berm to hide what they were doing from the Jefferson Pike. A 3-foot berm with some type of vegetation on it. That attempt was made in the beginning, and I was asked to come down and look, and I went and looked, and it was kind of an insult to see what they had done. We've had some discussion, and since then they have improved it dramatically on where they are pulling the dirt away beside Jefferson Pike. But my request, it's good. What they've done is good, don't get me wrong. But they are going to go further, and I would like to see the berm contend the extent of the excavation. You have a field, you have a home that will most likely go away. I can't say that because it's not mine, but if it's excavated out like where you are now, I'd like to see that berm continue and hide it all, so we won't have to look at it. My only other concern, the picture Ted showed you was from 2018 on the reclaiming. I feel like maybe we're not completely up to par on our taking and reclaiming the soil. I have flown over it, and some of it still looks a little damaged. I'll put it that way. I know I have talked to your excavator, and he tells us you've probably got maybe a year left of soil, could be a little more than that. And I would hate to see the soil get completely away before your agreement was held tight to reclaim the entire place. You're doing a great job keeping it off the road, like Ted said. If it wasn't coming from there, it'd be up and down the Jefferson Pike. We've got enough trash trucks on the road there. To answer your question about how long it could take, Republic's not using a lot of dirt now. They're using a substance of lime and cement for a cover to hold the trash when they do close. So it could go on for quite a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Ted, did you have anything else to?
No, sir.
Okay. Close the public hearing. Any comments? Jerry?
I'd make a motion that we approve and request them to continue with the berm per the county commissioner's inspection.
This would include all the other conditions that they're representing in their, okay, thank you.
Okay. You made that motion, and we got a second. Okay. Any further comments? Everybody understand? Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
William Harper,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes. It is approved. The next item is a request by Jason Barrett, who's requesting accessory dwelling. And what do you have on that, please?
Yes, sir, thank you. This property is located at 1113 Clay Court, part of the Crescent Cove subdivision. They're asking for a special exception for the establishment of an accessory dwelling unit, which I'll say ADU the rest of the time we're talking about this because it takes too long to say accessory dwelling unit. This property is zoned RM, medium density residential. This is the property in question, you can see on the map. They're seeking, again, a special exception approval for the ADU. The reason it's coming before the the Board of Zoning Appeals, excuse me, I'm used to being at the Planning Commission. The reason they're coming to the BZA today is because of the minimum lot size requirements set forth in the zoning ordinance for ADUs. By right, ADUs can be done on properties that are an acre or larger. This is just under an acre, so that's why it's coming before you today. The principal residence is, you can see, located on property. I'll get to some pictures here in just a moment. But they would like to place a 26 by 26, which is about 676 square feet, detached ADU on the property. And again, since it doesn't meet the acreage requirements, that's why it's coming before you today. Just to show you some of the surrounding area. It's the property in question, just looking straight at it. Looking at some of the neighboring properties. This is a sketch and a schematic of what they propose to do. You can see the existing house on the property is about 1,400 square feet here. They have an existing detached garage on the property, and this is where they'd like to place the accessory dwelling unit. This is on a step system, so there's not septic soil actually on the property itself. This is kind of a layout of this proposed structure. You see the kitchen living area, the suite, master area, walk-in closet, whatnot, so in a small porch. So you can see the entrance is right here, pretty much shielded from the rest of the right-of-way. Fence right here, privacy fence. So that's kind of an overview of what they would like to do. On your tables, you will have a letter from a resident area who had some concerns. I believe he's present as well, but I'll let him speak to his concerns and we can discuss more about that. I'd like to turn it over to Tanya Bell for just a moment here to discuss some of the building codes issues with accessory dwelling ADUs as well. So Tanya.
I just wanted to mention that if this is approved, this project would require a building permit and would also be subject to the development tax.
Yeah, Gary.
I've got a question. Now, this is going to be a stick-built structure, correct?
I haven't actually talked to the applicant yet, but he'll be able to address that when he comes out
Okay.
here.
Because it looks like something else, the picture I see. It looks more like modular or something, but I mean, it's just a picture, so I'm just wondering.
Okay, any other questions? Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please. Give us your name and any additional information.
My name is Jason Burnett. I'm the owner of the property at 1113 Clay Court. And to answer your question, sir, yeah, it's there's no existing structure. It'll be slab built and constructed on top of that, just like the house, from a complete set of plans.
Stick built. It's going to be stick
yeah,
built.
It's going to be constructed ground up with lumber.
So you're going in this subdivision, you're actually going to have 2 single-family dwellings on one lot.
It'll just be an ADU, and there are multiple of them in Crescent Cove. There are 4 other properties in the Harrison Glen subdivision that have accessory dwelling units on them currently. And so, yes, technically, but it'll meet the guidelines that are set forth for Rutherford County accessory dwelling units. The only reason we're here before the board today is because I'm just a few thousand square feet short of having a full acre. I have the second largest property in the Harrison Glen Crescent Cove area. So if I had the full acre, from my understanding, I'd be able to just pull the building permit for it. But because I'm a few thousand square feet short of a full acre, but there are other much smaller lots in Crescent Cove that applied for and have been approved for completely detached accessory dwelling units, and they exist there currently.
Are you going to be putting a garage up too? I see the detached
Yeah,
here,
yes,
I'm trying to
the application is for a 26 by 26 accessory dwelling unit and the detached garage. So they will fall within the requirements of being less than 2,000 square feet. The only reason we want to put the detached garage up is so that we eliminate any street parking, because that cul-de-sac is already relatively congested. 2 doors down from us, we have a rental house, and they have about 4 cars they park in the street. And so they're just to alleviate the street parking, and because I have the means and ability, we were going to build the detached garage just to keep the vehicles off the street, to make it less of an eyesore for the community.
Who's going to be living in it?
My mother-in-law. She's 73 years old. She has Meniere's disease. She lived in the Crescent Ridge subdivision, and we have no plan. I mean, our plans are to be there until, we're going to take care of her there. My parents also are in their 60s. I have no plans of doing anything with the property in the future. I have no problem signing the paperwork that says that, that it will only be for family and invited guests. I don't have any commercial plans for the property whatsoever. It's literally just to alleviate the issue of right now my 73-year-old mother-in-law is living in my master suite in my house, and I'm living in my son's room upstairs. So we're just trying to find a space for her where we can take care of her because of the fall risk and those kind of things. So that's the purpose of the addition.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, before you have a motion, if I could just talk about this letter just real quick. One of the concerns that was brought up in the letter that's on your tables had to do with the possibility of the step system maybe having some issues. I talked with CUD. I just wanted to make sure that this got out there. I talked with CUD about that today. They say generally when it comes to accessory dwelling units like this, they said generally they don't have any issues as long as it doesn't exceed 5 bedrooms or 300 gallons a day capacity. They said, and that generally that's okay as far as they're concerned on the step systems. He said the smell that the gentleman had with this letter was probably smelling. He said that probably hasn't had nothing to do with the leach field area. He said that's probably a broken cap on one of the tanks because the solids are what stay in the tank, and that's really the more smelly part, so to speak. So the liquids go to the step area where they're filtrated and then seep back into the ground. That's not the area that really smells. So they said it's probably either his or a neighboring tank that's got some kind of an issue. So as far as CUD was concerned, they didn't really see any major issues with this. There were some other issues that he brings up here regarding the restrictive covenants of that subdivision, and of course, as you all are aware, county doesn't get involved in either creating necessarily or maintaining, enforcing any kind of restrictive covenants. So just so everybody's aware of that. Just want to make sure the letter was addressed. Thank you.
Do we have a motion on this? Have a motion to be approved. Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item we have is a request by Daniel Frederick, establishing a mobile home. What do you have on that, please?
Yes, sir. This is for property located at 8673 Briley Road. This property is a little under 5 acres, about not quite 4.5 acres, 4.28. They're asking for a special exception for the approval of for the establishment of a single-wide mobile home on a lot less than 5 acres. As you are aware, county regulations do require that single-wide mobile homes be on 5 acres of land or greater by right. If it's less than 5 acres, then they have to come before you. So that is what they are asking for today. This is the property in question in red. You can see there's an existing structure on the property now. We'll go through some pictures here in just a moment. This is Rocky Fork Campbellville Road, and this is Briley Road located off of that. So they're wanting to put the structure on this property. The property itself, again, is a little over 4 acres. The dwelling will be a one-section manufactured home, about 437 square feet. Again, both the applicant and his wife will reside in the home. And there was a home located on part of property until 2017, which has been removed. Just to give you some pictures of the surrounding area. That's actually onto the property itself. That's that structure I was talking about. This map was provided. This is showing you the general location of the proposed single-wide. Of course, if a permit is going to be issued for it, before this can be out there, they'll have to put a permit, get the building permit, show their septic and all that. That'll have to go through that same process as far as that goes. So again, the big reason it's coming before you is just because it's less than 5 acres. Looking at Danielle's notes, she said we did receive multiple calls on this, but nobody indicated any opposition or problems with the request. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any comments on it?
I don't. We will issue a building permit for this, and because there hasn't been a residence on the property since 2017, we will verify that the septic system still functions before we allow them to move into it.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you come around, please. If you give us your name and any additional information you don't share.
Sir. My name is Daniel Frederick. The septic tank is completely... Oh, sorry. Sorry. I used the microphone.
That's all right. I can hear it better when
So the septic tank is brand new. We actually had that installed back in February. That is entirely brand new piping, brand new septic tank out there. Right now I'm working on electrical and getting water to the house. This is going to be our first home purchase. So we actually plan on living on the land and actually having our children be raised on this property. Currently we live in Antioch Apartments, and we're just trying to move.
good place.
Yeah.
Good county to live in. Any questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone that'd like to speak on it. Close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to be approved. Have a second. Call a roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item is a request by Robert Williams and Gretchen Cruz, who is requesting establishment of an accessory structure. What do you have on that, please?
Yes, sir, thank you. This property is located at 6041 Manus Road. Again, the request is for a special exception for the approval of an ADU involving property in the RM district. This would be for a single-wide mobile home. Single-wide mobile homes as ADUs have to automatically come before the Board of Zoning Appeals for approval. This is the subject property in question. You can see it's Bradyville Pike is right here on this side, and you got Manus Road coming here on this side of the property. The subject property is about 31 acres, which does contain, this does contain 3 dwelling units. You can see there's one here at 6808, there's one here at 6041. This one's actually addressed for Bradyville Pike. This one would be Manus Road, and there's a third one back here at 6249, and again, that's also on Manus Road. The applicant is seeking special exception approval for the ADU, again, because of the fact that it is a single-wide mobile home. It will be replacing a home that was destroyed by fire in 2010-2011 timeframe. This parcel in question has an existing single-wide and site-built residence. Our zoning ordinance states that on residentially zoned tracts of 15 acres or greater, you can have 2 principal structures erected on a single lot. Now, being that this is 30 acres in size, right now this is in compliance. There's no issues with it. And I'll show you a few pictures here and what the applicant, I believe, either they're proposing or it may have already been recorded. This isn't something we would have to review because it's a larger acreage tract. And since I'm saying that, I'll just go ahead. This is the particular unit in question. It's not hooked up. It's just sitting there. One of the residents on site, well, actually I think that's across the street, excuse me. But just kind of show you some of the other surrounding area that's there at the intersection of Manus and Bradyville Pike. Okay, get to that photo here, some pictures of Manus right there. Okay, there we go. What they're planning on doing, or like I said, at some point, if they haven't already, this will be broken into 2 separate tracts. There'll be a 15-acre, 16 or so acre tract right here. The line's kind of obscuring it just a little bit. But then 15 acres in here. So you've got the 2, and then you'd have the third, which that would be in compliance. Now, the property owner does have to live in one of the units. The applicant has been made aware of that. So that is kind of the basics behind this particular application. The applicant is present and can answer any additional questions. Tanya, I think, had a couple comments on this one. We have received several phone calls on this as well. Multiple informational calls, but no one indicated opposition or problems with the request. But if it is going to be approved, we just want to make sure if it hasn't already been divided, it will need to be. And again, the property owner has to live on site. So I'll turn it over to Tanya for any other comments that she may have.
I really didn't have any comments on this one. This
Sorry.
is replacing that's okay. This is replacing a mobile home that existed there several years ago, so that was destroyed by fire, so development tax would not apply in this scenario.
Are you representing this request? Okay, go ahead.
It's actually replacing my great-grandparents' home that had burned down.
Can you talk into the microphone? Ma'am, talk directly into the mic. Yeah, you're
It's
fine.
replacing a home that had burnt down. It was a block home, actually. I think it was around 2011. It had burnt down. And this mobile home was actually given to us, and we had to, the reason why it's sitting there now is the place had sold, and they were time limited on where to get it off their property.
Okay, we have some questions here.
Are you going to be living in the mobile home?
No, sir, my son is, and he's here too. He lives across the street now, and so he will be moving into it. And
The other structures that's on the property, who lives in those?
The one mobile home that you saw a picture of, they actually own their trailer. They just rent the spot from me, so that's their mobile home. So that's a tenant of mine. And then the one in the taller home that you see, that's also a tenant of mine.
Okay. It gives the appearance that you're developing this land for...
This land has been in my family for many years. This was my great-grandparents' home, and actually I lived on the property in that one building that you seen, the tall one, the home there. I lived in it up until I bought my home on Dilton Mankin Road, which is right down the road from there.
So, to clarify, you're the owner, but you don't live anywhere on this property?
No, so my son actually lives across the street on the property that I own across the street, but he's going to be moving into this because he's a single person and I own both sides of the property, and he will be moving into this one.
One of the requirements for ADUs is that the owner live there.
Yes, sir.
Who actually who's the owner of the property? You own it,
Yes,
but
sir.
you're not going to live on this particular property?
No, sir.
Okay, then
My son is going to be moving in.
are you going to transfer the property to him?
Yes, eventually he'll be.
Okay, well, it will need to be a little sooner than eventually. It'll have to be transferred to him in order for him to live on that, because the owner of the property has to live in one of the units on site.
Okay.
So if that's the plan, that's fine, but...
Yes, that's the plan, is
okay.
to eventually
Okay, but like I said, it has to be, we won't, we have, the land will
Because I
have...
want to keep the land in my family to be.
Sure.
I mean, it's always been in my family.
Right, understand.
And
I just
it's
want...
going to be given to my grandkids.
Right,
and
okay, I understand. I just want to make sure that you're aware...
Nothing that it's going to be sold. Or
Okay, right, and that's fine.
Plan on making this transfer? Is this?
Well, I hadn't made any big plans recently, but it's always been.
Okay, well...
My daughter's going to, because we're splitting the property up into two partials now.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to get the back half. I only have 2 children, and he's going to get the front half of where he's
So
going to be
this is going to be,
living now.
the 15 acres up here, that's going to be your daughter? Is that what you're saying?
The back part.
This part right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then this part will
I
be his?
hired Elkin Surveying Company
Right.
to come in and divide the 2 properties up. And the part that you see right there where the recycling center is, we donated that property to the county to have, to recycle there. So I just wanted you to be aware that, our family did,
Right.
donate our own land to
Sure.
the county to have a recycling
Right,
center
and we,
there.
of course, we appreciate that. I just want to make sure that you're aware that before that mobile home can be set up and established, that land will have to be in his name if he's going to live on the property, or else you're going to have to live on the property.
Okay.
That's...
If you have something to say, come up here.
Yeah.
He was asking, can we be joint owners on it, like if I added his name onto the
As long as you're
property?
one of the owners, that's fine. Okay. But you have to be an owner and live on the property. You can't just put it up there and then rent it out to somebody else, or, it has to be, the owner has to live in one of those units.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
We can do that.
And we want to see verification of that before we'll let the building permit in.
Mansfield, attorney, to draw
That's
that.
okay. Yeah, make sure you're talking into the microphone. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we'll have Rick Mansfield draw it for Tract 1. Actually, that map, I believe, is the numbers are a little different. Tract 1 will be the 15.29 acres. The tract in the back will be 16.23.
As long as they're over 15, either, that's fine.
My question is, I guess to Doug and maybe to the attorney, technically should we, I don't think we can approve this until we actually have that in hand. So wouldn't it be best if we postpone this 30 days and let them get that done and bring it back?
That would probably...
I could make an appointment. I can make an appointment next week with Mr. Mansfield.
Doug, I was...
I think you could do it one of two ways. I mean, for the belts and suspenders approach, I mean, as the property owner is the one making the request, okay? So if the property owner said, yes, I'm going to transfer ownership or add ownership, and then he lives on the property, as long as we have verification of that before we issue the building permit, personally, I'd be all right with that.
Okay.
But, I mean, you could do it one of two ways, yeah.
As long as I just add him to it.
Yeah, if he's an owner of the property,
Give it to him
right,
right now, but
right.
adding him to it
Right.
would.
If he's an owner...
We talked about
then
that anyway.
Right, if he's an owner, I'm good with that, so.
I don't want to just hand over property.
I understand.
I mean,
Okay. So you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So do
Okay.
you want, we will postpone
Okay.
this, I guess.
Well, I guess it's up to...
Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll maybe
Thank
see.
you.
We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on it. Close the public hearing. Do we have a motion on it?
I'd make a motion, we approve, Mr. Chairman, with all of the conditions for ADUs and also them subdividing the property.
And the ownership.
Conditions for the ADUs will take care of the ownership problem.
Right, so if they add the ownership, then, and do all that prior before building permits.
That's correct.
Okay. Very good.
And also the subdividing
Yes.
portion of the conditions you put upon it.
All right, our attorney says that's okay. Have a motion,
Second.
have a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. It is approved. The next item is by request by Huntley Gordon. This is a request for a auto repair shop.
Yes, sir, thank you. This property is located along East Jefferson Pike, 1201. The applicant is requesting a special exception for the approval of a major home-based business, which does involve auto repair on this property, and the property is zoned RL, residential low density. This is the property in question that you can see right here. Excuse me just a second. The applicant would like to operate their auto body repair and mechanical services within the existing detached accessory structure on the property, which you can see is right here. The house is right up in here, and this is the accessory structure back in this area. Business days of operation would be Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. There are 3 employees that would be on site. And just so you're aware that this request was made as a result of a complaint received by our code enforcement, so that's kind of what prompted this application in the first place. Just as a little bit of background information, up until June of 2016, we actually didn't allow for major home-based businesses to be auto repair establishments. We changed the code back in 2016, and we've seen a handful of them, not just like a flood of them or anything. But there are some properties in the county larger that it's probably more of an appropriate type use on the property, so just a little bit of background for that. Going through the major home-based business standards that is local, and in case you have this in your staff report as well. Again, they do plan on having 3 employees on site. They indicate that they have up to 9 vehicles stored on the property at any given time. They would propose to operate their home-based business from the existing detached accessory structure that we talked about just a little bit earlier. Don't really have any need for additional parking. As you can see from the pictures here, we'll kind of go over those. You can see that's looking down Jefferson Pike. That's looking onto the property. This is the driveway. Of course, the structure's way in the back. I mean, after looking at this, you really can't even see where the building is located from the road. But just looking at this right across the street, looking down Jefferson Pike. Neighboring property. This is kind of an overview of the area where you can see this is where the business is going to be located. We don't really see the need for any additional parking on this property, as there's plenty of area for parking for even the additional employees in the back. They do indicate that they will comply with the standards limiting business customers to 10 customer-client activities a day. Again, this is a use that is now allowed as a major home-based business with special exception approval. They do indicate that they do have plans for sign advertising the business. They would have to keep it to what's allowed in the zoning ordinance, which is 5 square feet attached to the building that they're actually using. They couldn't have anything out front, like a ground sign or anything like that. Generally, this does meet our standards for special exceptions and for those standards in major home-based businesses. You may want to discuss the possibility of a condition allowing applicants to store up to 9 business-related vehicles on the property, consistent with their application. Multiple phone calls were received on this, but nobody indicated any opposition or problems with the request. So with that, I believe the applicant is present, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is this auto repair or auto body?
I believe it's just auto repair. I don't think you do any body work. Is that right? You can come up.
If you come around, please. Is this auto body or auto repair?
I believe it is a little of both.
Okay.
But primarily mechanic.
Little of both?
But primarily mechanic.
Okay.
Yes, sir. My name is Huntley Gordon, and I'm here on behalf of the owner, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
How many vehicles are currently on site? or at a given time?
I believe it's
'Cause
consistent
from
with
this-
the application.
What was that?
It's consistent with the application. I was told between 5 and 9.
Because looking at the picture on this aerial, it just shows quite a bit, so I'm just trying to make sure it's
And I
in
will say,
alignment.
this is about a little over a year old. This isn't current,
'Cause I'm-
so,
okay.
yeah.
Mr. Gordon?
Yes, sir.
You're saying you believe this and you believe that, and you're representing the owner.
Yes, sir.
What is your role with this?
I am the attorney.
Okay, all right.
Is it's going to look like a junkyard,
I understand that, and I can respect that.
especially with 9 vehicles. It's going to look like a junkyard.
Well, there's 3 employee vehicles.
How many vehicles will be housed inside the dwelling, the unit?
I believe it has 3 bays.
3 bays,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So it's going to look like a junkyard.
Does it have a privacy fence around any of it?
It's
see one in the
completely
front. What
landscaped
about-
and privacy fenced, and it's unable to be seen from the road.
What about seeing from the neighbors' backyards?
There's a complete privacy screen on both sides of the building.
I mean, it's really close to the borders of the property up against the neighbors. Do you know how far the nearest house is from that besides his own?
No, sir, I do not know the linear footage.
I would, as just looking at this photo, it's hard to say. You know, you figure this car right here is probably about 18 to 20 feet. So, I mean, you figure roughly 50 feet from here, maybe another couple hundred feet, maybe tops. It's hard to. This is not the scale, so it's hard to say. But just
So
looking
it's
at
safe
that
to say it would be an earshot.
from the house, now from the structure back here, it's probably a little further. I was just doing a measurement like right from here to here, just like a rough estimate. Now, part of the requirements for home-based business, of course, is that they stay quiet. I'm assuming most of the work's probably done in the structure.
It
so,
is.
If they're just doing minor mechanical work and things, may not be as loud. I'm not familiar. If Tanya might be able to answer as far as. I'm assuming the complaint came from a neighbor or something, but I don't really know.
Renee, go ahead.
Doug, could you tell us what the definition of a junkyard is in the codes, please?
Just bear with me just a second. Okay. According to our zoning ordinance, a junkyard is any land or structure used for the storage and/or sale of waste paper, rags, scrap metal, and discarded materials in the collection, dismantlement, storage, and/or the salvage of 4 or more unlicensed inoperative vehicles. So now, if he's not dealing with inoperative vehicles, if he's just dealing with those that are need of repair, and he's not storing them on the site, I don't know if that would qualify necessarily for what he's talking about. I think the cars that would be there would be cars that are just being waited to actually be worked on.
And how can we guarantee that? However, it's just 5 cars out back with no tags and they're being, junked
Well,
for parts.
short of doing inspection, that's the only way we would know, quite frankly. We're going by what the application said. There's nothing in the application that talked about the storage of any dismantled or inoperable or non-tagged vehicles. So, we're going off the information that we're receiving here, so that's
Is
our
the owner
understanding.
of the property, is he the owner of the business, or is he leasing this building out for a mechanic shop?
It would be leased out to a mechanic shop.
Okay, now, my understanding was that the folks that live in the house, it's their business. That's correct? Okay, yeah. So, because I say, if he was just leasing it out and they didn't live there, then this can't be a home-based business. But our understanding was that the owner of the business actually live in the house, so the whole property is being
The
leased.
person that's going to maintain the business is not a tenant of the owner. It is the owner's source of income himself, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Good, Gary.
Since there's going to be body work being performed there as well, you said, what is the reclamation plan for paint and doing all sorts of things like that? And also, is it going to be a paint booth there to meet the code for painting vehicles?
It is my understanding that this is a mechanics shop that does some body work repair. That's all. That's what I know.
In body work, though, there's also painting of vehicles.
I'm not aware of that. I'm not able to answer your question.
Okay.
So Gary, if this gets approved, what we will do is a change of use permit for the building itself because it was originally permitted and built as an accessory structure. So we'll do a change of use as a business building, and we'll go out and do a basic life safety inspection. We certainly won't, because it's on residential property, we certainly can't make them bring it up to commercial code. However, we would go in and look at life safety issues, essentially to make sure that the employees can get in and get out in the event of an emergency. And stuff like
that there would have to be some kind of meet fire codes as far as that stuff.
Correct. Yeah, there is a limited amount of painting that can be done without a paint booth, and that's addressed in the code, and we'll be sure and address that when we go out there.
I'm not aware of the answer to your question, so I don't want to speculate.
And there's nothing in the staff report that, in the information that we received, that said anything about a paint booth. So.
Doug, can we limit the amount of automobiles that are on site at any one time?
Yes, I believe you can.
I feel like that's just excessive. If it does pass, I just feel like it's excessive.
You're talking outdoor storage, I'm assuming. If you had one in each bay, then maybe 2 or however many, up to 5 outdoors or something like that. Yes, I think you can. That's a reasonable condition, I think.
Was that the original complaint? Are we able to know that? Because I haven't asked this question before, but what was the original complaint that was... I don't know if it was to you.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have my laptop with me, so I'm not sure what the original complaint was.
Because of the appearance and aesthetics, so that would go hand in hand with what
I do know
saying.
You can't see it from the road, so I don't know, and I apologize. I don't know if it was noise but you cannot see it from the road, because I did talk to the inspector before I came over here, and it's not visible from Jefferson Pike.
And my involvement had been with Danielle, and she had called me and she walked me through the proper procedure to have this approved, and that would be coming before the BZA.
Mr. Gordon, how long have you been operating out there now?
I'm not sure as far as the duration of the, I know the owner purchased the property approximately a year and a half ago, and there was an existing structure when he purchased the property, and it was my understanding that the business was in operation when he purchased the property.
Okay. Any further questions?
I think this is a lot of times this is a thing where things are getting transferred and purchased with the notation that it was previously a business. However, they were working underneath the table. But this we see this happen a lot here.
Well, and I think that was the point of, we have an existing use. This hasn't gone through the correct procedures. How do we rectify this issue?
Right.
We typically see this on property that has acreage around it where it's really isolated from the neighbors and such. And I know you can't see it from the road, but this is a long, narrow lot that's pushed up against neighbors. Doug, do you see a compatibility issue?
I mean, if they stay in compliance with the standards, I mean, that's the thing. If they can demonstrate compliance with that, then not necessarily. I mean, it's a big size structure, I will say that, but, reasonable conditions on there, if they don't have a whole lot of vehicles parked outside and stored. Like I said, this is an older aerial photo, so it may not look like that today. But, as long as they can abide by those standards, I think it'll be all right. Of course, if it doesn't, we'll get complaints about it and we'll check it out. And if we have to bring it back, we will, if it's approved.
Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Mr. Piercy. You've been busy tonight, haven't you? You've earned your pay.
This gentleman's lucky. This gentleman is lucky. I haven't had one call against this. Now, I've had calls inquiring what it is. But to answer some of your questions on that picture right there, it's not very far to any of those homes. Miss Bell's right. You cannot see it from Jefferson Pike, but it's going to be visible to several of those homes around it, because that's a cluster of homes that's been put there over several years. It's not my decision to make. There's not a lot of information being given here tonight. And the size that it's kind of been portrayed to be, you might want to think about commercial, because it looks like it could very easily head that way. Because we've got 3 employees, 9 vehicles outside. It's not going to be a mom and pop operation. Couldn't be. And I was here back maybe a year or two ago with Mr. Barrett, and he was trying to put a paint body auto repair in a smaller subdivision, close lots and all, and we required him to put in a collection system, a state-certified fume collection system, monitor the noise and everything. I mean, the rules fell on him. So that's my piece.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Close the public hearing. Have a motion on it.
I mean, Commissioner Pierce is right. I mean, I'll be honest, and no disrespect to the speaker, there's some answers that I don't have, and I just don't feel comfortable.
If you want more information, the proper course of action would probably be to defer it and have, of course, the applicant's legal representative talk more specifically. We can sit down with them and say, okay, this is the information they want before they can make any kind of a decision. So a deferral may be in order for something like that.
Yeah, I move to defer it.
I second.
We have a motion to be deferred, and we have a second. Any further discussion?
And I'll make sure that I have more information on the initial complaint and any activity since then.
Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. We have one more item, and would you explain that, Doug?
Yes, sir. This is under just other board business. Back in 2019, you considered a request for a property located at 11015 Patterson Road. It was BZA 2019-004, so that would have been toward January, February probably of that year. This was for a special exception for a rural retreat. Since that time, staff has received the site plan. We reviewed the plan. We've sent comments, gone back and forth a few times. But as it turns out, the applicant has, and the owner of the property, being the same person, they've been working with TDEC, with the state, and as it turns out that there is an adequate septic for the building to do what they want to do on the property. So the applicant has, and the owner, again, same person, but they have asked us, the board, to just revoke that permit. This is coming from them. This isn't because of an enforcement action or anything like that. This is by his own request. So no need for a public hearing on that. It's just a matter of a motion in the affirmative.
And we don't need a public hearing on that, do we? We don't need.
This isn't something that we do very particularly often.
Doug, I was actually sending an email, so I will. Can you repeat that real quick? It was for the county, by the way. What was that again, Doug?
The applicant of this particular property, this is under other board of business, 11015 Patterson Road. They've asked for their special exception to be revoked because they're not going to do the rural retreat anymore.
Oh, okay.
So, right. So this isn't because of an enforcement action. This is by the owner and applicant of the property.
All right. Do we have a motion on it?
I make a motion to accept the person's request.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
William Harper.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Do we have any other further business?
No, sir. I think that's all we have.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.